You're a former prosecutor before you were in Congress.
Yes.
What did you make of, first, before I get your comment on Donald Trump's commentary about police and essentially telling them be more brutal, this is the response of the Suffolk County Police Department. This is who he was speaking with. This is where he was speaking on Friday. They sent these two tweets. The SCPD has strict rules and procedures relating to the handling of prisoners. Violation of those rules are treated extremely seriously. As a department, we do not and will not tolerate roughing up of prisoners. And they have a reason to be particularly sensitive on this. The Suffolk County Police Chief, back in November of 2016, the New York Times reported that the former police chief of Suffolk County was sentenced to 4 years in prison for beating a suspect. And they actually convicted and sentenced him for that. So what did you make as a former prosecutor and as a member of Congress, or the President of the United States encouraging police brutalism of suspects?
Thank you, Joy. It is highly disturbing that Donald Trump is encouraging police brutality. As a former prosecutor, he's basically asking police officers to violate the law. Police officers took an oath to protect and defend the Constitution. If they listen to the president, not only are they going to be violating the law, they're going to be subjecting themselves to discipline and their cities and counties to massive lawsuits. Let me say, in 1 week, Donald Trump got rebuked by the Boy Scouts, by the Pentagon, by the International Association of Police Chiefs. You really got to try to be that bad.
Yeah, the Boy Scout, we're going to come back to the Boy Scout thing. But, you know, Jason, when Donald Trump was saying, first, I used the term paddy wagon, which is extremely offensive to Irish people of Irish descent. But when he talked about being rough, throwing suspects into the back of the van, all I could think of is Freddie Gray. And I don't know if we have that video, but this is exactly what was done to Freddie Gray. He was thrown roughly into the back of a police van. His neck wound up being so fractured that he died. What did you make of the President of the United States using that particular imagery with police standing all around him?
Right. So a couple things occurred to me, Joy. One, you know, I'm faculty at Morgan State. I'm in Baltimore. I actually texted a couple of my students. Did you guys see this? And they were disturbed and horrified that you would have the President of the United States basically encouraging a rough ride. But this is what we see from this president. This is how he surrounds himself with. This is his general disrespect for the law and people of color. And I'll be honest with you, I hope we screenshot every single cop who cheered, because if any of them ever have a complaint against them cheering for someone advocating them breaking the law should be one of the first things that complaints go to.
Yeah, and Jim, you know, you also have him making up things about police. I mean, you have Donald Trump not only encouraging police to be their worst selves, something police departments, at least in their official capacities, do not encourage. Right? They don't publicly say rough people up. But then in the Chicago Police Department side, he made up a story about talking to a police officer who said he could solve all the crime in Chicago. Rahm Emanuel said, nope. Never heard of this person. This person doesn't exist.
Right. No, it's like his friend Jim, of course. You know, he consults on all things. I mean,
and John Barron.
Oh, of course, John Barron. I mean, the thing is here. Look, Trump is the very, very same person who put out an ad in the New York Daily News in May of 1989 calling for the death penalty for 5 innocent Black and Hispanic teenagers who had been accused of rape in Central Park. And so he's the same guy. That's, you know, 27-some years ago. He's the same person. And so what we have to really consider is that the president is going to, spark this culture war because he's got nothing else to do. It's literally all he's been doing, this entire time. He's spoken in the language of white supremacy, and given the fact that he has been ineffective at pursuing any of his legislative goals, this is what he has left to do. And the angrier that he gets, the worse this will get.
And Amy, you know, there is an element of this that, you know, obviously is encouraging to his base. It's designed to keep his base excited. I want to play a little bit of the way that Donald Trump talked about violence when he was running for president in 2016.
There's a guy totally disruptive, throwing punches. We're not allowed to punch back anymore. I love the old days. You know what they used to do to guys like that when they were in a place like this? They'd be carried out on a stretcher, folks.
Thank you for the warning. I was ready for him, but it's much easier if the cops do it, don't we?
The guards are very gentle with him. He's walking out like big high fives, smiling, laughing. Like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
So if you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of him, would you? Seriously. Okay? Just knock the hell. I promise you, I will pay for the legal fees.
Well, aside from the fact that he probably wouldn't pay if he when he promised to pay for them. Amy, do Republicans on the Hill? We know that they have a certain fear of the Trump base, that they go very quiet at the mention of Donald Trump. Do Republicans think that this kind of rhetoric, this kind of encouragement of violence, actually helps them in their reelect, or at this point are they weary of it?
No, I think there is a big divide, Joy, and what you're seeing is President Trump kind of riling up his base because his base likes it. His base likes it every time he attacks. He goes on one of these tirades. Every time he attacks the press, he's playing to his base. But on the other hand, I'm hearing from Republican sources every day now that this is so disconcerting to them, that they don't understand what's happening. He's going off the rails. This is not what their party stands for, they say, and it's become increasingly problematic for Republicans.
And I wonder about that because you're serving with these folks in the House, Congressman. The new White House communications director has adopted the Trump style. Maybe this is the way Anthony Scaramucci's always been, but this is the way he talks now to a reporter about leakers. He said this, and it's not him. I'm going to read it. He says, "What I want to do is I want to." Expletive, kill all the leakers. And I want to get the president's agenda on track so we can succeed for the American people. That's the way the communications director talks to the press. Do you detect among your colleagues in the House discomfort with that?
I do, but let me first say Congress passed whistleblower protection laws to protect leakers. So if you're a whistleblower, there are laws to protect you because we want the truth to get out to the American people, as long as it's unclassified information.
Sure.
And with regards to the new communications director, his vulgarity and profanity is highly disturbing. I served active duty in the Air Force because I believe in this country. I believe in the greatness of America. And you're seeing with Donald Trump and his communications director that they are bringing this country down. They're making us weaker and teaching our children all the wrong things.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess, you guys, on the political side, in terms of the strategy side, this is how Donald Trump is planning to be reelected, right? Because he knows that there's a 30 to 38% of the country that no matter what he does is going to be with him anyway. But Caton Dawson was talking about earlier in the show, or earlier when we were speaking with him, that the problem is the motivation might not be there, that people don't see things getting passed, and so their drive and energy to vote might be there, even if they like Donald Trump. Right. So is that what this is about? Well,
yeah. I mean, he has to keep people angry. He has to keep them riled up. I mean, look, Trump is a step away from just playing the dozens with Congress. If he thought that would work, that's what he would do, because people say, oh, yeah, he's taking them down. Here's the issue, though, and we were talking about this earlier in the green room. Look, if you can't get anything done this year, next year no one's passing anything because it's an election year. And he is going to take a hit in this very Congress that he is not supporting. They're going to get wiped out. These Republicans get wiped out next year if they can't show they've done anything. So all this talk is great, but eventually people want action. So far he hasn't shown.
And Jamal, that is weird because, we've heard from Republicans and strategists, people like Michael Steele, that Donald Trump wants to distance himself from congressional Republicans. But they are running for re-election next year. He is not. How does that work strategically? Is he trying to make them lose?
Well, I don't think he cares whether or not they lose. I mean, look, we've seen this White House distance itself from the institutional Republican Party in so many different ways. And now it seems like they're formally trying to do it by firing Reince Priebus, by putting in someone who has no political experience, no connection to Congress. Frankly, I think that they're trying to send a message, not just that, hey, we want our White House to run in a certain way, but that we don't need the Republican Party. So one day the Republican Party perhaps may wise up and realize that they don't really need him either. Yeah. Mike Pence can sign these bills just as much as Donald Trump can.
Well, we'll just go to you on that then, Amy. Is there finally a sense among Republicans that this one-way loyalty isn't useful to them in their re-elections? They are loyal to him, and he's not loyal to them at all.
Oh, yeah. They need it to be mutual. They don't feel like it's there. And healthcare should have been the #1 example for what happens when you're not on the same page, when you just throw a bill together and Republicans aren't even wholeheartedly supporting it. This is what happened this week, and this is why President Trump is going to continue to run into obstacles. If he calls himself a deal maker, but yet ultimately he is not. He's going around Republicans and doing things that they don't like, and donors are starting to get really annoyed with him. I mean, we're seeing, there's an uptick, I think, in the disappointment from Republicans on the Hill, his donor base. I'm curious, and I think it's going to get even worse.
Indeed. It's a strange strategy. You don't want to work with either party. You just don't like anybody. You can't be 535 people, Donald Trump. You can only be one. Congressman Ted Lieu, Jason Johnson, Jamil Smith are going to be back with us. Amy Pards, thank you very much. We'll have you back.